So in this assignment, I'm going to talk about the factorial ANOVA. So factorial ANOVA compares means across two or more independent variables. And when we compare to the one-way ANOVA, so one-way ANOVA has only one independent variable that split the sample into two or more groups. But for the factorial ANOVA, it has two or more independent variables that splits the sample into four or more groups. Uh, so a factorial ANOVA will be conducted when we want to analyze difference on a continuous dependent variable between two or more independent categorical variables. Um, in a factorial analysis, dependent variable will be compared by all the independent variables. So that means if we have two independent variables, and for each independent variable, there will be two or three levels, and there will be a comparison between all the groups. In the factorial ANOVA will use the ANOVA function to see the overall comparison on whether group means differ, and also the assumption of homogeneity of variance will be assessed in factorial ANOVA. So my research question is to evaluate the effect of positive psychology books on people's life satisfaction at a different level of gender, like male and female. So I want to see whether the gender have the difference on the life satisfaction. So in my research question, there will be two independent variable. One is gender. So for gender, there will be male and female two groups, and another independent variable will be the uh, will be the three groups. So for the first group, there will be people assigned uh, to participate in reading a positive psychology book, um, which is Authentic Happiness, has been written by Dr. Sigman. And the second group will be asked to participate in reading a normal psychology book, mm, which is which the book name is Thinking Fast and Slow. It's just a psychology book. And the third group will be the control group, so there will be no book to assign to this group to read. So what I'm trying to say is to say the participant, after reading the positive psychology book, and after reading the psychology related book, and after reading no books, to see how this can make change in their life satisfaction. So uh, after reading all the books or not read books, and they will all asked to fill out the satisfaction with life skills, and it will uh, score from 1 to 10, and I will record the data from that. And so in this assignment, um, there will be the Levin test will be used to test the variance between groups, and also ANOVA test to see the overall comparison between on the groups, and also the post hoc test to see where the difference between groups lies. So here is my data set. So I have the first independent variable is a group, and it has the 3 different levels. So for the first one, as I said, will be assigned to read a positive psychology book, and for the second group, they will be asked to read a psychology related book, and for the third one, will ask to read no books. And another independent variable is gender. So the one it represent female, and the 2 represents male. And this is a life satisfaction score they have, like after reading the books, and what a score they got. So right now I want to interpret my data, and first we want to set the factor, and to reorder, like we said in our dataset, there is only number, so we want to reorder our independent variables and set the different levels. And you can see the 3 different levels of the first one, and the 2 different levels of the second independent variables. So after we set the factors, and also we want to interpret our data, so we use the by function to see what is the data is like. So as we can see, there are 6 different groups description data we get from, and we can compare like the female in the positive psychology group and the male in positive psychology group, and compare their means, and we can see the means are very similar, so we assume there might not be a gender difference in the 2 groups. In this manner, we can just use that to interpret all the 6 groups. Right here, we want to create a plot object as bar, and in order to get our plot, so use this function, we create the bar object, and this function is to get the plot, and as you can see, this one is to this function is to get our bars side by side, and also this create the wilds, and this is we want to label the X as groups and Y as life satisfaction, and the different groups of gender. So right here we can see this plot, and it's gave us more information when we look at this plot. As we can see, people in the positive psychology group, they score high on the life satisfaction, and people in the psychology group and the control group, they have very similar score on life satisfaction. So we can assume that after reading the positive psychology books, it increased people's life satisfaction. And also we can assume that after reading the psychology book, there is only slightly increased life satisfaction. And also we can see the difference between the female and the male. As we can see after, there is no difference between female and males in the three groups, in the three conditions. And in this function, we want to use the Nevian test to see if there is a significant difference between the group variance. So by using this function, we got the p-value is 0.8, so which is larger than 0.05, and which indicates that there is non-significant difference between group variance. So in other words, the variance among the 6 groups are roughly the same. So we can see that it's safe for us to run the ANOVA and the other next test in the following. So in those two functions, we want to set a contrast. So we set the two contrast for the 3 groups, and one single contrast for the gender. As we can see right here, we code the control group as the -2, and the positive psychology group and the psychology group, they are both set as 1. And the second contrast group, we set the contrast group as 0, and the positive psychology and the psychology group as 1 and -1. And for gender, we just set female as -1, and male as 1. So in this function, we want to create the model. We name it as a positive model, and include the outcome variable life satisfaction, and right here we put our 2 independent variables. So we use the ANOVA function and the type 3, so that we got these results. When we look at right here, so it shows that there is a significant difference between groups, in which means that, as we saw from this plot, and we can easily see there is a significant difference after reading the positive psychology books, and the life satisfaction has been increased after reading positive psychology books. But there is no difference in the gender